Shalom, brothers and sisters. The title of this video is Nibiru and its Biblical Revelation. Many of you have heard of Nibiru over the past decades and have dismissed it as a fable. One of the reasons people have dismissed it is because of the planned deception by Esau through the different forms of media. The trick is to give dates and then have nothing happen. This will cause people to go back to sleep. When the real time approach, no one believes, and they are caught unaware. This is called the Chicken Little theory. The sky is falling, the sky is falling, or the boy who cried wolf, and there was no wolf. And when the wolf came, no one believed him, and the boy got towed up. Nibiru is real. Nibiru is the largest planet furthest out from the dark star Nemesis, which is red because of the tremendous amount of iron oxide that shrouds the star. The red iron oxide follows behind Nemesis for millions of miles like a comet, dragging with it debris picked up from the Oort cloud, which is outside of our solar system, and debris picked up from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Now, I'm not a scientist, an astrophysicist, or an astrologer, so for more information on these heavenly tools that the Most High is using in his judgment of the world, you'll have to do your own research. I will leave some link references as a starting point for you in the descriptions below the video. Now let's see how the Nemesis star system, which will be referred to as Nibiru, ties in with the Bible. Luke 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. We are clearly told there shall be signs in the sun, and signs in the moon, signs in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, or great sorrow or pain of nations, with perplexity, meaning their inability to deal with the situation. The sea and the waves roaring. The oceans will not be calm. There will be high tsunamis. Let's see how this connects with Revelations. Revelations 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This is talking about a constellation that can be seen with the eyes as a sign that something is about to take place. The constellation on September 23, 2017 proves Revelations chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. This sign in the stars appeared to have taken place in September of 2017. Luke 21, verse 26. Men's hearts fell in them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. These signs are taking place now, but are being hidden by technology, chemical trails, and artificial light from the International Sun Simulator. These are things that some of you probably have not heard about or gave thought to, but they exist. The technology is not 100%, and some of these heavenly bodies can be seen through the webcams all over the earth. Very difficult to see with the naked eye at this time, but cameras can see some things we can't. Take a look at this video. It helps increase your understanding about the International Sun Simulator.
Saturday, December 9th, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 2017. Solar simulators. Here's one here at Google Patents. Goes back to 1960. The idea has been around for a long time, quite possibly even farther back than 1960. There's a diagram of a solar simulator patented back in April of 1966. I shared two images yesterday with you guys of photos of Crazy Horse Monument in South Dakota. In both photos, there was two independent photos. A hexagon appeared in the sky in the photos, and it was very obvious that it was definitely a hexagon, no doubt about it. Yes, I did make the connection with the solar simulator. I didn't say anything right off the bat because of what's going on at YouTube, but as it turned out, they ended up demonetizing my video anyway, so here it is. Yeah, I'm totally on board. It's pretty obvious this is what we're looking at. How it ended up in the sky above Crazy Horse Monument, I have no idea. But yes, I totally agree, guys. That's exactly to a T what this thing looks like. Perfect match. So what I've done is taken a lot of the photos that I showed you yesterday and put them up next to a what appears to be a solar simulator. And there you go. Perfect match. Looks like a honeycomb in the sky. There you have it. So yes, I'm totally on board, guys. There it is. There it is in black and white. That's negative. There's your machine. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's more than likely a solar simulator. Right there it is. There's the picture the guy took. His name's Jonathan. He didn't actually see it. He saw it in the photos after the fact. But the solar simulator theory and idea has been around probably before you and I arrived on planet Earth. There's a diagram right here of the idea. Thanks for watching, guys. And yes, I'm totally in agreement. That's what we're looking at here. Thanks for watching, and as always, be safe out there.
Welcome. It's Sunday, March 6, 2016. Welcome to the second part of the HEXAGON hypothesis. So thank you very much to everybody who's contributed. It's definitely a team effort, and I'd like to encourage anyone to contact me or comment below with your ideas. It's important to keep thinking, keep questioning, keep commenting, keep an open mind. Now I want to answer the number one question out there. Does the sun exist? Or have we just been living with it like this for a long time? Well, before I get into that, I want to explain how a solar simulator works. It works, as you can see in the diagram, by taking a variety of sources of light, and they bounce off of a parabolic reflector into a bottom dish, where they reflect in collimate, moving up a light shaft, bouncing off of a couple more reflectors, and out onto us. The answer to the question in short is yes, the sun is real. And there was a time when we were able to get very sharp images of the sun. As you can see, it's got well-defined edges and is completely circular. Now, this was at a time before we had a lot of chemicals in the atmosphere, and so such a thing was possible. At some point, however, we just kind of stopped asking questions and took for granted what was in the sky was always there. Nowadays, when we capture images of the sun, we see fairly obscured edges, and on the clearest of days, it's still very fuzzy. Some of these shots are ones that I took, and eventually we ended up catching what looked like a hexagon. Now, another reader astutely pointed out that the sun is real because plants, and that's true. Plants and physics. We know that because there has to be light going into it, it comes from a power source, and the light that comes out is going to be a close approximation of the solar radiation spectrum, but not complete. And we also know that the total energy input cannot be greater than the total energy output. Assuming the hypothesis to be true, that we have plants and trees and things growing in our ecosystem, is a good indication that at some point the sun would have been real. Now, here's just a speculative thought. Wouldn't it be interesting if we were able to get the full energetic output of the sun directed through a solar simulator? That is, if we had all the chemicals blocking out the solar rays normally, and we used satellites and other devices in space to reflect sunlight and direct it into our solar simulator. The organization that controlled that would control the sun.
Because we're no longer observing the actual object. If we move it within the focal length, and it comes back into focus. So what they've been doing is simply refocusing the object that you don't want to see away from your eyes. Look at that, it's gone. You can see it on the screen here, but if it's out from the focal length. Now if I move the camera back and forth, you can see clearly it's gone. See that? If I could turn it lens, they may be actually moving this lens. Pretty simple. You can see the lens, but you can't see the object. Instead, you see what's behind the object. And that's what's happening in our skies. Hope this helps.
The FAA Aviation Weather Cam, webcams de Mexico, and webcams in Europe, you will have to learn to use these tools to find the proof for yourself. I will leave a link of one person that does a good job of finding these planets. Universal News Media. The link will be in the descriptions. Look at what the Most High says about the Edomites and those that follow him. Psalms 7, verse 13. He hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. The Most High created Nibiru for this very purpose of destroying the Edomite Empire, punishing the nations and wicked rebellious Israelites. Verse 14. Behold, he travaileth with iniquity, and hath conceived mischief, and brought forth falsehood. He destroys with sin, and he thinks up evil things to do, and tells many lies. Verse 15. He made a pit, and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. This mess he created over the centuries is going to fall back on him. Verse 16. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. Evil shall come back to him, and the way he dealt with others shall return to the crown of his head. The first 4 seals have started in September of 2017 and will increase with intensity over the next 3 years from the time of this video posting. And from the time of this video posting, we are already 7 months into the last 7 years. Revelation 6, verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Look at this precept here. Isaiah 13:13. Therefore will I shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place, in the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. A very large planetary body, Nibiru, will eclipse the sun, turning the sun black. The moon became red as blood from the red iron oxide dust that shrouds the planet. The stars of heaven fell unto the earth. Meteors and or small asteroids from the tail of Nibiru could appear as stars to John. The heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. The only thing that could move every mountain and island out of its place or present location would be if the earth crust or axis was to shift. The gravitational force of Nibiru being very close to the earth could cause the shift. Let me be clear. Some people think a nuclear war could cause this, and that is impossible. Hundreds of nuclear detonations have taken place over all the world, underground and on the surface, and every mountain and island were not moved out of their places. The signs that Luke 21:25 are talking about we see in Revelations 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. Remember, this is talking about a constellation that can be seen with the eyes as a sign that something is about to take place. In this chart, you see an event in space that took place September 23rd, 2017. Below you see Virgo, the woman clothed with the sun at her shoulder and the moon under her feet. And you see the crown, or 12 stars, consisting of the constellation Leo, which has 9 stars, and the planets Mercury, Mars, and Venus in position, which make up the 12. This sign begins the 70th week of Daniel and the last generation spoken of by Yahweh Shai in the book of Matthew. Let's look. The 70th week refers to the last 7 years prior to the return of Yahweh Shai, or tribulation period. Matthew 24, verse 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. The generation Christ was talking about is the generation that is living when the heavenly signs take place. 10 years after that, all things will be fulfilled. That include the return of Yahweh Shai and the nations returning our people from their lands. A generation is 10 years. Let's prove that. Genesis 15, verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So Abraham was told after his seed come out of Egypt, it would be the 4th generation before they returned to the land. We wandered 40 years in the wilderness. 4 times 10 equals 40. 10 years is a generation. Now let's take a look at what Baruch has to say. Baruch was a scribe to Jeremiah, and he's going to give us a little insight on this 10 years as a generation thing also. Baruch 6, verse 3. So when you be come unto Babylon, ye shall remain there many years, and for a long season, namely 7 generations. And after that, I will bring you away peaceably from thence. So we spent 70 years in Babylon, or 7 generations. 7 times 10 equals 70. 10 years is a generation. Now, let's go to Revelations 12, verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Revelations 12, 3 and 4 is not talking about a constellation, but is speaking about the actual star system Nemesis, which contained Nibiru and other objects following behind it. Pay no attention to the dates on these charts. The dates on these charts are bogus. Let's keep in mind that we don't know the exact location of the Nemesis system in our solar system during September 2017 or now, but it's here and can be partially seen from webcams around the world. The powers that be know they're tracking it and are doing everything they can to hide it from us to prevent economic collapse and to keep people asleep about the impending destruction that's coming on this planet. Let's see a video showing more images, and this from Universal News Media.
Good afternoon. This is Universal News Media. Today is March 21st, 2018. Today we will be viewing unedited images from photos obtained within the past 24 to 48 hours from the Federal Aviation weather cams in Alaska. All videos are in time-lapse mode with each frame equal to 10 minutes. Here are the two moons again that we see in several locations throughout Alaska and Canada. These just happened to be visible yesterday on the southeast-facing weather cam in Puntia Lake, Alaska. Also, every day we see a red, fast-rotating planet rolling across the skies all over Alaska and Canada. I wanted to point out that there are more than one of these small red planets. This one from the southeast-facing weather cam in Lake Clark Pass, Alaska, has an enormous crater, which is a little difficult to see well, but the enlargements help to view this yawning crater even better. And some contrast added helps to view it even better. This red planet is not seen nearly as frequently as this one, being displayed here from the south-facing weather cam in Sitka, Alaska. As it rotates and rolls across the sky, it's obvious that there is no huge crater like the one we just viewed from Lake Clark Pass. These Sitka images are from 10 or 11 weeks ago because this is an excellent video for viewing an entire solar eclipse from start to finish. As the sun closes in on the planet, the sun simulator sends out a black positioning indicator beam to the concealment jet awaiting a signal. In a minute we'll see an excellent close-up of the concealment jet. Oddly shaped reflections of the concealment jet swing into view from the right side of the screen. Anyone with an IQ of at least 80 can recognize that the jet's reflection, which is shaped like a small airplane, cannot be a lens flare of the sun, which is shaped as a circle, round. The actual jet is not visible here because it is a very transparent machine, which we'll look at in a moment. The jet's reflection, the eclipsing planet, and the black dot on the sun simulator always line up in a straight line for optimum concealment of the eclipse. The eclipsing planet passes in front of our real sun, but behind the sun simulator, so that it's not obvious an eclipse is occurring. In the very last frame, we see the black dot reflecting upon the water, proving that it's a real piece of equipment and not a camera anomaly. The Mr. MBB333 YouTube channel has an excellent close-up of the concealment jet that keeps making odd reflections in thousands of these weather cam images. He shows this transparent machine in his January 30th, 2018 video. Here is a better image of the jet so that the viewers can grasp a general idea of its size. The trees in the bottom right corner and the sun help to give it a little bit of perspective. It looks very large and mostly transparent except for some lights. And here's an even better close-up of this highly secretive machine. It appears to have an arrowhead shape in the front. Behind that is a round area, and the back of it is rectangular with rows of lights. We saw this jet in action the other day from the southwest-facing weather cam in Barrow, Alaska. The sun is getting ready to eclipse a planet, which is very transparent in the atmospheric chemicals, and as the sun closes in on it, we see the concealment jet closely following the planet, sending signals back to the sun simulator. The planet, very invisible in the transparency of the atmospheric chemicals, comes out a little better with some contrast applied. The jet's reflection swings into view from the right edge of the screen. We've seen this before many, many times. Here's an eclipse that just occurred yesterday at 1:30 in the afternoon. Notice how dark it is for this time of day. This was viewed from the southeast-facing weather cam in Ugonic Bay, Alaska. The sun is still in an eclipse. This is why it is very dark. There are 3 large planets traveling together in close proximity, and we are seeing just one of them. The planets are passing in front of our real sun, but behind the sun simulator. The sun simulator has a very effective blurring mechanism applied to nearby celestial objects. That, combined with the transparency of the atmospheric chemicals, makes these planets difficult to spot.
The exact location of the Nemesis system is not important for us. What's important is the confirmation of Revelations chapter 12, verse 1 and 2 by the heavenly sign. This gives us the start time of the 70th week, talked about in the book of Daniel, and the last generation that Yahushua was speaking about in Matthew 24:34. Let's continue. Revelations 12, verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto the Most High, and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of the Most High, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. This isn't talking about slavery in America, because we didn't flee to America or the Western Hemisphere from Africa. We were kidnapped and taken to the Western Hemisphere from Africa. Verse 5 and 6 is identifying the woman and giving a similitude of what happened in 70 A.D. and what will happen in verse 14 of Revelations that we'll mention in a minute. 3 times in the Bible, we the Israelites dealt with the wilderness. 1 was Exodus 13, verse 18. We walked with our heads high with dignity during the Exodus. 2 was Revelations 12, verse 6. We fled into the wilderness to Africa in fear during 70 A.D. And 3, Revelations 12, verse 14. We, or the group to become the 144,000, will fly into the wilderness in great joy and gladness after the 6th seal. Revelations 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. The remnant group that will become the 144,000 will fly to the wilderness in heavenly chariots, or what we call UFOs. This is after we witnessed some destruction to the nations. We witnessed destruction before we left out of Egypt, and we witnessed destruction in 70 A.D., which just happened to be against us. But nevertheless, we will bear witness again to the destruction before we are delivered. Whenever there's a deliverance, somebody has to die. Let's take a look at this. Isaiah 43, verse 10. Ye are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. I, even I, am Yahweh, and beside me there is no Savior. I have declared, and have saved, and I have showed, where there was no strange God among you. Therefore ye are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, that I am the Most High. Isaiah 44, verse 8. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a Elohim beside me? Yea, there is no Elohim. I know not any. Isaiah 66, verse 15. For behold, Yahweh will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. This is talking about Revelations 12, verse 7, verse 8, and verse 9. It begins with Yahweh's chariots or spaceships coming with Archangel Michael for the war with Satan, ending with Yahweh pleading or punishing all flesh with World War III and the 7 vials poured out on the earth to top off the events of that time. Look here. Revelations 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought, and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Satan and all his angels are kicked out of second heaven, or what we call outer space, and down to the earth. No more would they be able to go into heaven or space with their ships. They will be confined to the earth at that time. Revelations 12, verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. Now is come salvation puts us in the proper time frame for the end time, meaning it won't be long now. Once Satan is kicked to the earth, salvation will come quickly. Revelations 12, verse 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. The 144,000 and the martyrs, which are the 1/3 of Israel, that go through the tribulation, overcame Satan by the cleansing blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony. Their testimony is proclaimed by the keeping of the commandments to the best of their ability at that time, and by letting the Holy Spirit speak to authority at the appointed time. They stayed faithful even under the threat of death and did not try to save their own lives by giving in to the enemy. Revelations 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. Remember, the woman which brought forth the man-child is the nation of Israel. Remember, after the 6th seal, the war in heaven takes place. Revelations 12, verse 7, 8, and 9. The dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, and he will be pissed. He will start to round up the Israelites to kill them. 2 words, FEMA camps. Revelations 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. This is not talking about going into slavery and being fed by our enemies. We would be in the face of the serpent if we did that. Let's look at what it says carefully. The woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. Fly into the wilderness, not walk, not sail on a ship like Deuteronomy 28:68 when we went into slavery, but fly to a place of protection by the Most High's chariots, because the group that will become the 144,000 is scattered all over the world. It says, where she is nourished. Let's see what nourished means. Nourish, the act or power of affording nutriment. Thayer definition, nourished. Number 1, to nurse up, nourish up. 1a, of young children and animals nourished to promote growth. 2, to bring up. 2a, with the predominant idea of forming the mind. When we were brought to America, our enemies gave us and taught us to eat every vile thing under the sun and moon, very poor quality food, and in many cases our people were starving. They didn't nourish us. They neglected us, mistreated us, and reviled us. It says we will be nourished from the face of the serpent. When we were in slavery, we were all in the face of the serpent and his children, our enemies. You know, our slavers, and those that hated us, and including those that helped us. So to be from the face of the serpent is to be away from our enemies with the predominant idea of forming the mind for righteousness, nourished spiritually by Yahushua in the wilderness. Revelations 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. So the group that will become the 144,000 are given 2 wings of a great eagle, as it says in Revelations 12:14, to gather them from all around the world and deliver them to the wilderness. Now let's compare the eagle's wings in Exodus. Exodus 19, verse 4. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. The Most High bared us on eagle's wings, his divine protection and deliverance, and we walked into the wilderness. Now in Revelations 12:14, the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, his divine protection and deliverance, that she might fly into the wilderness. His chariots will fly us to the wilderness, because the group that will become the 144,000 are scattered all over the earth and not in one place in Exodus 19:14. I feel the need to make that clear. Also, the world, and more importantly, the 1/3 of Israel that will go into the Great Tribulation, is meant to see the glory of the Most High when he delivers his elect, the 144,000. Prophecies sometimes have more than one meaning, so we will focus on the end time meaning after the 6th seal. Revelations 12, verse 15. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away from the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. I believe that we will be at Mount Sinai, as in the days of old, and the nations will know it, and can't do a thing about it. Who are the nations that the Most High have to hide from them? We didn't hide when we came out of Egypt, and we won't hide now. Once we get to the wilderness, the serpent will send military, just as Pharaoh did. Instead of being destroyed by water, the earth will open her mouth and destroy them. Let's look at these examples I got right here. Deuteronomy 11, verse 6. And what he did unto Dathan and Abiram and the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of Israel. Numbers 16, verse 32. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. Numbers 26, verse 10. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up together with Korah, when the company died, what time the fire devoured 250 men, and they became a sign. The same will happen to the forces of flood that the serpent sent after the 144,000. Revelations 12, verse 17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of the Most High, and have the testimony of Yahushua Christ. Now the dragon will make war with the rest of the 1/3 that must go through the Great Tribulation. The rest of the 1/3 remnant will wake up in one day, the day they see the elect being delivered in chariots. they will realize they have been deceived and turn to the Most High in a more correct way to the best of their ability at that time. See my video as it is written to give more insight on keeping the commandments. Look at this. Isaiah 66, verse 7. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Before she travailed, she being the nation of Israel, before the great tribulation. She brought forth before her pain came. She gave birth to the group that will make up the 144,000. Before her pain came, before the great tribulation began. She was delivered of a man-child, or she was delivered by a man-child. The elect will be delivered or brought out of the world and into the wilderness by Yahweh Shai, which is the man-child. Remember Revelations 12:5. And she brought forth the man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. The man-child is Yahweh Shai. Isaiah 66, verse 8. Who had heard such a thing? Who had seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. So after the destruction of the sixth seal, and after the 30 minutes of heavenly peace, when the deliverance of the 144,000 takes place on the seventh seal, the 1/3 remnant will be born at once, or awakened in one day, and realize their true identity and begin to keep the commandments in a more correct way to the best of their ability at that time, and give testimony of Yahweh Shai. And let's go to Haggai 2, verse 6. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, yet once, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens, and the earth, and the sea, and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith Yahweh of hosts. When the heavenly bodies or tools of judgment, which we call Nemesis, the dwarf dark star, and Nibiru, the largest of its planets, in World War III, complete their jobs of destruction, then the nations will look to the Most High, through Yahweh Shai, through the Israelites. We will then receive the respect of the other nations that the Most High intended for us to have, and that we will then deserve. Haggai 2, verse 21. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms and of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. After the heavenly destruction, the Most High will cause the heathen nations to start World War III, and it will be like a global supersized civil war among the heathens. Isaiah 13, verse 13. Therefore will I shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place, and in the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. The Most High tells us that he is going to use things in heaven, the Nemesis star system, to cause the earth to move out of her place with powerful gravitational and magnetic forces. Isaiah 24, verse 1. Behold, Yahweh maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be, as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly emptied, and utterly spoiled, for Yahweh has spoken this word. Everyone will feel the hand of the Most High in that day. Billions of people will be killed. That's why the earth will be empty. Great global destruction will cause the waste. The earth's axis and or crust move everything out of its place, and people will be scattered because of it. Israel caused these things to happen because of our disobedience. To the Most High, I say, forgive us of our sins against you, as we repent and turn to you. To the world, I say, our bad. Let's see what we did. Isaiah 24, verse 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. So we are the true cause of all this mess because of our sins against the Most High. But we the Israelites have hope. If we come out of the world, repent, and turn to the Most High, and start to keep His commandments to the best of our ability, then we will be fine. Let's go to Isaiah 24, verse 17. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth, and it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundation of the earth do shake. In short, the wicked heathens and wicked Israelites cannot escape. Kind of like that third verse in the national anthem that you never hear, you know. And where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. And people have the nerve to wonder and get upset when people of color don't stand up for the national anthem. Isaiah 24:19. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. The earth axis or crust will move, causing all the great movement. Along with increased volcanic activity, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. This will trigger great tsunamis. It shall fall and not rise again is talking about the sin that is in the world. It shall fall and not rise again. Isaiah 24, verse 21. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. Remember we read earlier in Revelations 12, verse 7, 8, and 9, Michael defeats Satan and his angels and cast them to the earth. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. This second heaven, or what we call outer space, he will no longer be able to go into. He is trapped on earth and will soon be chained. This is why he is madder than an old man with a bruised corn. The kings of the earth will be punished also at that time, and after many days shall they be visited. The great white throne judgment, wait for it, it tarries not. Brothers and sisters, Nemesis and his star player Nibiru are very real and is going to blow your minds. If you are not prepared, it is here and the time is short. Listen to this warning and take action for your salvation. Repent and turn to the Most High and start to keep His commandments to the best of your ability. Remember, you have been warned. I leave you with this. Revelations 22, verse 7. Behold, I come quickly. Blessed is he that keepeth the sayings of the prophecy of this book. Shalom.